Hello and welcome back to Devil's Gambit. We'll be continuing where we left off, which, if you recall, is after... Actually, not even after. It's during when Cadgan and Rian are basically spying on the dreams of Silvareth. And they're trying to, I guess, figure out the type of person he is. Trying to see whether or not he's actually telling the truth about his little story of, like, oh, I grew up on an island and blah, blah, blah. They're also apparently trying to figure out if they can use him or if he's actually going to be trouble. And what they're, I guess, finding out is that he appears to be similar to what they are, which is, I guess, touched by a dark god. He is burdened with glorious purpose. Also, they saw when Silvareth finally spoke to a demon, the demon that is related to his specific dark god, which is the quote-unquote gluttonous dark god, which would explain the mouth on Silvareth's stomach, which would probably also explain the whole I have a voracious appetite which nothing seems to sate. Yeah. So prior to that though, and probably the reason why the demon decided to speak with Silvareth is because it appears that Tio is inspiring something within Silvareth, which maybe the Dark God or maybe just the demon and Gareth do not like. And I fear that this is going to spell doom for Silvareth and perhaps Tio, who I guess, you could say I guess you could say Silvareth is pining for. He's feeling conflicting emotions because he wants to help Tio get off the island, but at the same time it's like, well, if he leaves, he's gonna leave me. But yeah. Anywho, so without further ado, let us continue Devil's Gambit. Rian hid himself behind the pole in the center of the church. He stared daggers at the statue behind the altar, with an intensity that could have been fueled by anger or jealousy. Can you believe it, Caddy? This thing calls itself a demon. Pah! It's just a voice coming from some statue. What kind of demon is that? It's so boring. That voice was more of a genuine demon than the both of us. A real vector, born in the depths of its dark god's domain. But I held my tongue. No need to harm my brother's feelings. Well, yes. I'm sure it made it sound more genuine in Silvareth's eyes at the time. Did it? He didn't even know what a demon was. Precisely because of that, what Silvareth knew was that it called him here through the island's wildlife, and that it knew everything that he thought. It must truly have seemed like a divine being to him. I'm far more interested in all this talk about Silvareth being an avatar. Immediately upon seeing him, I considered Silvareth might himself be a demon, but that just didn't fit. A real demon would have behaved like how he does. There's plenty of corrupted wildlife in the Eye Valley. On this island, the ants seem to be influenced by its dark gods somehow. Although they behave differently from the valley's fauna, they seem to be genuine children of the dark god. Despite their humble appearances, they might actually be a different kind of demon. But a corrupted person that retains their identity, that is almost unheard of. Until now, I thought only the shamans, of which only we remain, fit that category, but Silvareth might fit too. Shamans and avatars, could they be two words for the same thing? In a way, this is similar to what Leopoldina was doing then. However, Gareth had come in contact with an actual demon and had a better idea of what he was doing. This couldn't have ended well. I glanced at Rian, intending to ask for his thoughts, only to find him hanging upside down from the pole, one leg hooked around it and holding on with one hand as he spins around. Hey, Rian? As soon as he hears me, he stops and does an exaggerated maneuver to reorient his body upwards and allow himself to slide down the pole. What? This demon. It did tell the truth, didn't it? Of course it did, but it just told Silvareth the bits that he wanted to hear. I'd call it clever if tricking an angry young man wasn't a piece of cake, especially with all the mind reading. He's got nothing on what I did to Hector. That's nothing to be proud of. I guess not. I still need to think of how to tell Hector the whole truth. We can't keep this play of Rain's going on forever, but for now the priority is guaranteeing his safety and Renai's. Let's continue, Rain. You've got a good idea of Silvareth's conflict so far, so let's see what happens next. Sure thing. We don't have the whole night after all. We don't want Fatty to wake up on us. So, you think you can succeed your father soon? Yes, it's being arranged right now. I don't know when exactly it'll happen, but it'll be soon. Then you'll be able to leave. It sounds good, yes. It worries me a little to have to rely on your father's word, though. Silvareth had been given one condition by the demon. His existence was a privilege only meant to the Avatar and Father. If the ceremony was to be carried out, that rule had to be respected. He didn't enjoy telling Tio a lie, but he couldn't stop now that he was so close. They just needed to wait a few more days. I know, but, trust me, it'll work. He wouldn't lie about this. I suppose so. Everyone in the village takes these traditions very seriously. Tio stared off into the sea. Silvareth wondered what was reflected in them. The endless green, visions of his homeland. No, if anything, it should all be places that he would go to from now on. Then, why did he look so defeated? Even so, Silvareth smiled. So, where are you planning to go next, Tio? I don't know. My parents' country would be a nice place to visit. I see. I've never explored outside, so anywhere would be nice. Maybe we could leave together once this is all over. What do you think? Tio turned to the dragon, surprised, and smiled. Silvareth was happy, and yet something began nagging him in the back of his mind, because Tio's smile didn't reach his sad eyes. But the dragon didn't ask him about it. There wasn't just sadness reflected in his gaze, no matter what question he came up with or how he phrased them. Deep inside, he already knew the answer to it, all of them, so there was no point in speaking further. Those had been the last words that they'd ever exchange. It was like he was dreaming. Silvareth knelt in front of the church, his gaze meeting the ground. He couldn't remember what he was doing then. It was all muddy images that seemed to mix with each other. In one moment, there was the ground. The next, a hand carrying a clay plate, putting it against his second mouth's lips. It had been then that the drowsiness overtook him, that his hunger surged and yet seemed so distant, like a voice ringing out from a neighboring house. The two accompanying him pushed the door open, and Silvareth sleepwalked into the church. So many eyes. He wished that they weren't there, that they wouldn't see him wobble around like a fool. What was this supposed to be? Father was there, but what was he saying? The words reached Silvareth. He recognized them, but their meaning was lost to him. Then, when the crowd split to reveal the church's altar, he saw Tio. It was just like when he found him sitting at the beach, with his legs crossed and his gaze staring off into the distance, much like Silvareth did the days that he waited for an answer. No. Wait. He was kneeling. Tio, why did you look at me like that? No, that's too aggressive. Is something wrong? No. He'll just answer everything is fine. It's like you don't even care. It didn't matter how he shifted his words. He was just averting his gaze from the simple fact that Tio only felt pity for him. He smiled at the beach because he truly wanted to get the dragon off that island, but the feeling behind it hadn't been what Silvareth hoped. In his eyes, Silvareth was just a lonely, love-struck child trapped in a fate neither of them understood. So when he understood the emotion behind his words, that look was all that he could return. Thus, He never let Silvareth hold him the way that he wanted. He'd never accept the words the dragon had practiced inside of his heart over and over. His hunger would never be sated, not without God's intervention. With each bite, one new fear Silvareth secretly harbored became a solid truth. But still, Teal really would never leave him. He fell to his knees, hugging the altar as to not be toppled by fear and confusion, and stared into the deep red that stained the floor and his body. Silvareth felt Teal's presence in his mind and running through his veins. Stifling his sobs, he couldn't tell apart his tears from all the red. I stare down at the dried blood surrounding the pole in the middle of the church. Rain is sitting facing a wall, his shoulders bobbing up and down as he stifles his cries. He keeps repeating the same words to himself. But still, Teal would never leave him. For an instant, I wondered what I should be feeling right now, but what a stupid question that is. Doesn't a glance at Rain answer that? He constantly surprises me, and in doing so reminds me of what I don't have. And yet, I crouch and hug him from behind, resting my head on top of his. What's wrong, Rain? Talk to me. I don't want to kill Hector, Cadgan. I don't want him to pity me. You'd never touch a hair of his, Rain, and he doesn't pity you at all. If anything, he might rely on us too much. But if this is really like with Leopoldino, it is, in some aspects. You feel for Silvareth, don't you? You feel just how sad he is, but that doesn't mean that you two are the same. Hector accepted you. You always say that, remember? This place is getting to you. Come on, get up. He turns around to face me, and with a sniff, he nods. I take his left hand and help him up. Should we keep going? We don't have a choice. Okay, just a little more. We're almost there. A thick smoke filled the church's dining hall that day. Dragons and lions alike sat around the table. They all looked at the avatar expectantly, in awe, pride, and respect. And Gareth was there too. He sat like a frail shadow next to his son's empty seat. Everyone looked at the avatar expectantly as he slowly walked around the room, wearing a smile with his hands behind his back. Maps with multiple circled locations and arrows drawn in them were strewn around the table, alongside books some of the guests were taking notes on, as well as open envelopes and letters. Silvareth had been in the middle of a speech, his hands dancing around him as he gesticulated for the gentlemen in the room. We'll be ready to depart from the island very soon. Let us review our roles. I will head for the capital and infiltrate the Silver House. In the Dragon Society, wealth is not only a symbol of prosperity, but of influence and power. The nobles don't listen to the wise nor the studious, but to those that they think will better help them line their pockets. I shall earn their trust, and once I have them eating off my palm, I will be within the king's earshot. He stopped between two chairs, pointing with a claw at one of the maps. Iago, you will be left in charge of recruiting as many lords as you can to our cause. The colonies you will want to visit are... The men spent hours in the stuffy room, discussing plans revolving around wealth, political favors and betrayals, and even goading colonies into rebelling against any lord that they considered a threat, with all of the intent of Silvareth usurping the throne. This time, we're spying from behind a piece of furniture. The room is much bigger than usual for us, and if Silvareth were to see us, all he'd perceive is two little rodents idly shaking their whiskers. Rain did appear somewhat like a mouse to me, with the way that he insisted on neurotically sticking to cupboard provided by the bookshelf's leg, looking ready to dart away the moment Silvareth does as much as breathe his way. As for me, I stare at the dragon. After seeing his younger self for so long, I had nearly forgotten what he looks like, if only because the two seemed almost mismatched. This Silvareth carried himself with dignity and resolve his younger self lacked. It's similar to the one Rain once used to torment Leopoldino, and that upon seeing the Duke's wounded expression, I wished to recover so strongly that I actually took it back. I've got a thought, Cadgan. Do you think that the Inquisition fucked up? Or Manuel fucked up and accidentally contacted the wrong person? I can't believe that they'd send a Dark God cult leader to Renai. You think that's what happened? Wasn't it you that called him God's poison? I just said that because I noticed that he's like us. A little like the Dusk Viper too, remember? Teacher called him that once. So I don't know. That's why I'm asking. So Rain can't see what's happening. Not fully, at least. I may lack what he has, but the same is true the other way around too. It's not. I have an idea of what's about to happen, but it's not what you think. Oh? I think we know enough, in fact. We can leave now. Are you kidding me? Do you want to leave it here? This is an Inquisitor's dream, not a storybook, Rain. Yes, but he won't notice a thing. Have faith in our magic. Besides, you can never be too sure, eh? Appealing to my cautious side, he's learning too many tricks. You just don't want to leave when I know what will happen, and you don't. Yes, bite me. Now shush. In the years following his ascension, Silvareth took over the cult, and as Gareth had once dreamed, transformed their way of life. While they still hid in the forgotten corner of the world, they had taken the first steps in expanding their reach. Silvareth hadn't left as he originally intended, but he spent the following years preparing an offering for his dark god, one of violence, blood, and greed. As part of that, he had some of Gareth's most loyal men go outside and investigate the current affairs of the world. Having mastered his nature as the Avatar, he had bent not only the island, but the Green Sea to his will. Every few months, the waves would loyally bring them messages in bottles, not unlike the ones Silvareth had been so fond of sending out. These, however, spoke mostly of the politics and mercantile situation in the Dragon Kingdom, as well as of potential allies. With their plan nearly ready, Silvareth had ordered the construction of a new vessel so that the rest of them could finally leave the island. One afternoon when the ship was near completion, he showed up at the construction site and approached Matthias. The line seemed pleasantly surprised, and for old time's sake invited him to their hut. Forgive us, Avatar. We weren't expecting visitors, so I didn't prepare much food. It's all good. I have a banquet waiting for me back home. Silvareth had insisted that he didn't need to eat, but ended up accepting the couple's hospitality out of politeness. This brings me back. Your father used to sit right there whenever he came here to preach, you know. He did? I haven't seen him in a while. What was he? The lion tapped her forehead, struggling to remember something. Her husband shot her a reprimanding look, but soon a confused expression rose to his face. Silvareth meanwhile finished the loaf of bread and stew Samantha had served him, and then leaned back on his chair. We've come a long way. To think that we started in an abandoned colony, with no food and water, punished by an unrelenting sun, and very soon the Dragon Kingdom itself will bend the knee to us, God's chosen. It was the same for you, wasn't it? Indeed. We can't thank you and your father enough for letting us join you. For a while, the two lions went on about how great life had been since they arrived on the island. They didn't have much of a family to miss outside. They didn't go hungry anymore, and there were no debts that required them to destroy their bodies to pay off. When Silvareth finally interjected, it was with a single sentence. He spoke it calmly, yet it cut through the atmosphere like a knife, if only for an instant. It's a shame Tio couldn't be a part of this. But he is. Is he not with you now? Silvareth showed them a cold smile, one that he had practiced countless times, not to let even a hint of what lurked underneath show. Indeed. Do you miss him? Tio, we loved him. We still do. But your father was right. The poor boy only ever brought misfortune into our lives. I'm glad in the end that it was all for something." "Well said." The dragon suddenly snapped his fingers as though suddenly remembering something. "I almost forgot. In a week we'll be celebrating our final mass on the island. Make sure you come. You two played an important role in getting us here. I want you to be there as guests of honor." About a year ago, Gareth had noticed a shift. It was subtle, like a flower changing position after a gentle breeze, to the point that he couldn't articulate what had changed. He simply knew something had changed. The ants had always followed Silvareth, ready to discard whatever he no longer needed. However, ever since the succession ceremony, it was as though the wind blew with his every breath, the soil made way for him with every step, and the waves followed the motion of his arms. He exuded the gluttonous dark god's influence, wielding it as a hammer through which he reshaped nature. At first, Gareth suspected that this was a reason for his discomfort. However, it had already been a few years since Silvareth took over, and the more time passed, the larger his discontent grew. He tried bringing it up to Silvareth one night during dinner. "Avatar, don't you think something is off lately?" "I can't say that I do, Father. Do you feel ill?" "I don't think so." Well, maybe you're not used to having so little to do, right? With me taking over your duties, including preaching, you're most likely sitting back and relaxing nowadays, right? Perhaps you're just bored." That made a lot of sense, thought Gareth. How many years did he spend meticulously planning the trajectory of Silvareth's life, pleasing all the villagers that he'd convinced to join him in his venture to make sure that they'd stayed in line? Gareth used to think that, despite the blessings that had been bestowed upon his bloodline, life was very difficult. He wasn't allowed to relax. Taking care of an isolated village for more than a decade had taken a toll on his body and mind. Not that it hadn't been rewarding. Whenever he walked the streets, people would immediately recognize him and show him respect, because he was the one giving sermons. It was easy to sway others to follow his opinion. Most of the food the earth blessed them with was destined for Silvareth. The duty of rationing the rest for the entire village had fallen upon Gareth's shoulders, but that also meant that he had the freedom to eat whatever he felt like. His appetite, unlike his son's, wasn't bottomless. And it was he who spent countless nights turning in his sleep, fearing that one day his venture would be discovered and given a swift, violent end. It was funny how quickly all that ceased. At first, Silvareth took over the preaching, which then led him to being the one keeping an eye on the villagers as he assumed leadership. Gareth helped him at first. He had trained his son well on the areas that he'd need to conquer the Dragon Kingdom, but the village was an ecosystem of its own, and Silvareth needed guidance for a time. After he was done instructing Silvareth, he found himself with too much time to spare. His most trusted colleagues, with whom he spent entire afternoons fantasizing about a better life with, either were sent away as spies or spent most of their time talking with Silvareth. The only time that they'd given him their attention was when they'd gather to play cards in the afternoon. Little by little, the people walking down the streets forgot the reverence that they held for him, until they treated him like just another neighbor, just an old man with nothing better to do. And seeing that reminded him of Silva. What an absurd relationship they had. Back in the colony, it felt like she was his world, until his very last moment, Gareth was convinced that he wouldn't have reached the island alive if not for him. Whenever he was too tired to walk, she'd help him up. Whenever his mouth dried up, she'd sacrifice some of her water for him. Whenever he was ready to surrender to the world's cruelty, her touch would revive his soul. He couldn't even decide how to name their son, so they compromised with Silvareth. Then, one day it hit him. He didn't need her anymore. Some foolish person would attribute it to the Dark God's influence, to some madness that had been instilled in him either by it or the colony's cruelty. But they'd be mistaken. It really was that simple. She had fulfilled her role in his life. She wasn't needed, so once she became a burden, he tossed her away and forgot all about her. Love is like that too. Didn't he used to tell her over and over to never trust what men told her? She really should have listened. Perhaps he didn't tell her enough. Why was he remembering her now? All of this is natural, isn't it? Gareth knew that he was unfit to inherit the Dark God's full blessing, so he had Silvareth do it. He loved him too. If one day Gareth lost an arm in an accident, he'd mourn it. He loved Silvareth the same way. He wasn't like Silva, who, for him, his love was more akin to claws. Claws must be trimmed eventually. That was what most love was like, in fact. Silvareth was special. Silvareth had succeeded him. He was blessed and now would lead him and everyone else to a glorious future, right? Then, why was he thinking about Sylvia again? At first, the villagers stopped noticing Gareth until he was a few meters away, at which point they'd gasp as if a ghost had startled them. The old dragon touched his face, but nothing was out of the ordinary. The gentlemen in the church meetings wouldn't even see him through the clouds of smoke emanating from their pipes. Eventually, they stopped hearing his voice, and no matter how hard he tried, Gareth couldn't escape Silvareth's shadow. One afternoon, he went to play cards, but nobody would get the door. No matter how hard he banged against it, when he walked around the house to look through the window, he saw his usual group playing. Silvareth was there, sitting in his spot. He shambled across the village like a shadow. Nobody did as much as look at his way, or react to his mumblings. Was this death? What happened? This is what he wanted, right? It must be. Silvareth succeeded him, so... What did his son do? Father? That single word, or rather the fact that he had been acknowledged, made Gareth freeze. Funny, since when was it so scary to be talked to? Gareth turned around, sand getting between his toes. He was at the beach. Silvareth eyed the twin rocks rising above his father's right shoulder. What are you up to? It's almost time for Mass. I could ask you the same. Everyone's been looking for you, you know. For each step Silvareth took, Gareth took another backwards, until his ankles were submerged in the gentle waves. You look pale. Silvareth, cut the bullshit. What did you do? What did you do to me? Oh, nothing, father. Just what you wanted. No, you were supposed to obey me. Or could it be God's will? But that's impossible. It isn't what the demon promised. Did you not understand? Eating that boy should have revealed the truth to you. What truth would this be? Your wishes will never come true, not as long as we remain with nature. Think about it, boy. Were you happy as a kid? Didn't everything go to shit only when Teal Lion showed up? Do you know why? God let us make you happy. The outsiders threw everything off. That was when you realized that you can't have everything. Out there, nothing makes sense. Nature pulls you by the nose, spinning you around until you don't even know what you want anymore. You wanted him to stay with you, but not only did he want to leave, he wanted nothing to do with you, and yet you wanted to help him. And that's nothing. You have no idea what the outside will do to you. Silvareth. But with our God's power, we can change that. Teal is with you now, isn't he? You don't act like he is, but it's true, right? It's true, yes. I understand what you're trying to tell me, father. But I am afraid that it is you who misunderstands. Silvareth walked up to his father and grabbed him by the shoulders. I'm happy, yes. This really was the only way Teal would stay by my side, isn't it? And once I leave this island, so will he. The demon told the truth. This god, he truly is powerful. But that day I learned something neither the demon nor you know. What are you? That demon. It knows what people wish and how to fulfill those wishes, doesn't it? But it doesn't understand emotions very well. It guessed just because it did what I wanted it to, that I'd comply. Not understanding how much I'd hate you for it. Silvareth's grip on Gareth's shoulders tightened. The older dragon felt like he was about to be snapped in half. Father. Dad. Yes, son? What happened to Mom? She opposed the plan. So I see. What a bland answer. Oh well. Son, please don't. He never finished his plea. Before he realized it, Silvareth dragged him further away from the shore and submerged him under the emerald waters. Silvareth stared at the chaotic rippling, splashing figure. He heard the water splattering as he kicked around, felt the ghostly hands grasping his forearms uselessly. Poor father. He believes that there is still a place for him here. When the kicking stopped, when the deed was done, Silvareth stood straight and walked out of the water. It took him a second to notice that he was still dragging his father's corpse like a wet drape by the bruised neck. And, as if tossing a piece of trash, Silvareth dropped him on the sand. The ants immediately surrounded him. In the moment that it took the dragon to blink, father had been burrowed deep underground, taken somewhere his bulging eyes would never again meet the light of day. As a corpse well should. Time to go. It was almost time for mass. The woman opened her eyes, having felt her humble vessel come to a stop as it reached the shore. At her signal, one of her men took the paddle and gently pushed the boat until it was almost out of the water. So this was it, the lost continent, the sleeping place of the gluttonous dark god whose name had been forgotten. It looked so normal, very little like the contaminated environments that she had the displeasure of witnessing. A column of smoke rose above the tree line. Then it was as she had feared. With a blade in one hand, a gold coin in the other, and her men in tow, she explored the shore until she noticed a well-treaded path cutting into the nearby forest. There was no sign of life around, not even a bird song, except for black ants walking all over the ground and the trees. No matter where the eyes went, countless little dots squirmed around. This had made her cautious at first, but upon further examination she realized something was off. The ants were roaming around in chaos, as if in a panic. They were tearing each other's legs and bodies apart. Little by little the ground was being filled with ants torn to pieces. Was this the work of a demon? But why would a servant of the gluttonous dark god kill its ants? It didn't make sense. No, it was almost as if nature itself, in all of its fury, had ravaged the dark god's territory with its poison, driving its minions into a suicidal frenzy. But how could that be, when nature didn't have the command over said place? The village beyond the forest slept in perfect silence. It wasn't abandoned. There were recent footprints in the streets, and the houses looked lived in. Even the food in the kitchen the dragoness visited was fresh and edible. However, there was not a soul in sight. Not a breath or sigh reached your ears. It didn't take long to discover the footprints all led to the church in the center of town. That was when she noticed a familiar smell. After a moment, she readied her weapons and signaled for the men to get the doors open. But coming here with a weapon had been unnecessary. After all, they were all dead. All over the carpet, between and on the pews, and even on the altar, wherever her eyes went, death. It reminded her of the ants outside. Had the carpet always been that color? She walked into the building, immediately covering her feet in blood and almost needing to climb over the corpses to reach the altar. She had expected dragons, but lions as well? Some years ago, the lions had abandoned several colonies in the south that proved too hostile to tame. Nobles from the Dragon Kingdom saw this as a chance to swoop in and claim their resources for themselves. Once the dragons arrived, they discovered lions had been abandoned to their fate, and after realizing no reward was awaiting them in those arid lands, they returned back home. However, that wasn't the case for everyone. Some nobles had stubbornly clung to the hope of making back their investment, no matter the cost. Perhaps these people had the misfortune of having served one of those nobles. That explained the mismatched group. It was a shame that they were all dead. She would have loved asking them how they reached the island from the colonies. Instead, the main question that she had was what happened to everyone. Did one of the more bloodthirstier orders beat her to the island and cleansed it already? Not likely. This was all very fresh, and she hadn't seen another vessel at the beach. What's more, upon a closer examination, it seemed like some of these people had killed each other. Some had been killed while driving a blade or even while biting another. The pews were in disorder, damaged. Clearly a big fight had broken out. Had the cult collapsed as a result of some internal conflict? Or maybe they had been afflicted by the frenzy too. The smoke she had seen earlier came from deeper into the island, from the end of the world, beyond the forest. As she dived into an endless pit, a light broke through the darkness, a lonesome lighthouse in the Dark God's territory. The lighthouse turned out to be a source of the smoke, a church on fire. In front of it stood a single dragon. He didn't react to her getting close. It was hard to see, but his hands and feet were caked in blood. For a moment, the Inquisitor stood there, witnessing the church going up in flames. A single survivor painted in a dark red, the Dark God's world coming undone on its own. It made an impression on her. It touched her. From where she stood, for a moment she could believe that the Dark God were a cycle of growth and collapse, self-imposed collapse. A core feature, she hoped, but she knew the world, this imperfect world, could not be so kind. Did you do this? One is still alive? He turned around to see her. His eyes were empty, not unlike a corpse's. His voice was tired, his shoulders slumped, his soul obliterated. Dignity, honor, love. He had abandoned it all. He looked hard into her eyes for a moment, with what little presence of mind he could muster, and then tilted his head in a controlled, almost indifferent surprise. I don't know you. Where did you come from? The chain of events that led to the Inquisitor visiting the island that day had begun with a coincidence. She had been drinking herself under the table when she happened to overhear a sailor talking about a message in a bottle that he'd found many years ago. As he described its contents to his friends, she felt it, the tingling at the back of her neck, the shortness of breath, a cold sweat, and that numbing cloud overtaking her mind. In a moment, she felt more sober than she had been in months. She felt like dying, crying, fighting, yelling, but mostly dying. The sailor went on about the message, a deserted island lost in a green sea, the author of the message commenting about a pen the ants had eaten that day. Such a peculiar detail, an insignificant oddity for a regular villager, but for her, it hit too close. It wasn't much, but it was enough to prompt her to at least look into it. Imagine her surprise when, after asking around in a nearby town, she learned that many similar bottled messages had been found years ago. After obtaining permission from Father Superior, she immediately embarked to the island. By then, she had already steeled her resolve and pushed her humanity back down. In that moment, she recognized his dead eyes in the image that she saw every day in the mirror. The dragon with the second mouth chuckled, scratching his head. Ah, so they did reach someone after all. You wrote those messages? Indeed. I guess. Even if I did as a demon wanted, I had already doomed the plan to fail, huh? Demon? Where is it? He gestured towards the church. Here. I didn't know how to kill it, so I set it on fire. I see. I take it you're responsible for the people back in the village too? He nodded, or more appropriately, he hung his head down. The spirit to raise it up was already gone. Why? He could not answer. It never occurred to him that somebody would ask him why, not when his message had gone unanswered for so long. So he stopped and breathed in the fumes from the burning church, hoping that he'd die right then and there. But when he didn't, the words came out on their own. Because they didn't deserve to live. They were rotten to the core, all of them. All my life they taught me about how unjust the world outside is, about how normal people would beg powers beyond comprehension for protection, and even that wouldn't be enough to save them. But what they did to me wasn't right. They just were fine with it because they thought they would benefit from it. And I couldn't tolerate that. I couldn't allow them to keep breathing any longer. It just wasn't right. I couldn't stomach it. But I am God's avatar, So I grabbed his hand and made him give them their just desserts. He looked at the Inquisitor and at her beautiful weapons shining under the sun in the dark, fetid pit. He hoped that she'd kill him. He didn't even resist. God, I mean, he was fine with it. I was his avatar after all. The one thing he opposed was that I did not eat them. He closed his eyes, but he did not die. Instead, the Inquisitor extended her hand towards Silvareth. Good. I have a proposal then. Talent like yours, the way you were able to kill the demon's plan from the inside, is exceedingly rare. Normally I'd have you go up in flames too, but that'd be a waste. If you want to live, or if you haven't had your fill of revenge yet, then come with me. I'll give you more demons to kill. There are plenty of them out there. His appetite was bottomless after all. If he truly was the avatar of the gluttonous dark god, then this little appetizer of revenge wouldn't be nearly enough to sate him, which was why she was surprised to see him hesitate. More than that, a breakdown into sobs. Despite his appearance, for a moment, he was like a child, begging to be spared from the strife of seeing another demon in his lifetime. But there might be more people like him, or like Tio out there, alone waiting for a response and for salvation. If only help had arrived earlier, then they might have righted all these wrongs. The Inquisitor saw it, that conflict in his eyes. She had witnessed it too many times to count, not in an avatar, but in the common survivors. She knew what to do. She kept staring at him, drilling into what remained of his soul, feeling that last vestige of self-preservation breaking. It did not take much, really. Silvareth on his own understood that it was too late for him and Tio, but if I can make things right for someone else, then it'd be worth it. Like two shadows becoming one with the night, we stand a few meters away from Silvareth and the Inquisitor. In this memory, we are the only ones to bear witness to his resolve. From here on out, Silvareth would finally get out to the outside world, hunt the last remaining members of his father's cult, and be welcome as a new priest of the Order of the Red Sun. All for the sake of preventing tragedies like this from repeating themselves. Our plan will work. This man has what we need, brother. We are on the right path. Indeed, indeed. To think such a peculiar Inquisitor would make it to Renai. This feels like fate. Are you feeling kingship with him? You must be kidding. This grows out of rivalry, Caddy. We're two sides of the same coin. He decided to join the Inquisition, while I embrace my demonic heritage. We couldn't be more opposed to each other. Uh-huh. Only one of us can instantly set the other on fire, though. What's next, then? Ricardo should play his role well. He probably thinks that we are out hunting, and once he tells Silvareth what he knows of the Earth Helpers, Silvareth will be on Manuel's trail. But that won't be enough. We need... I freeze. This is what the burning of the amphitheater must have looked like. The fire consuming the church dances wildly, making Silvareth and the Inquisitor appear as two shadows. But within those shadows floats two golden rings. They are staring right at me and Rain. Rain sees my reaction and follows my gaze towards them, and then, as if waking up from a dream, hear our song, night-shrouded Lord, and slumber forevermore. The chant is so soft that it doesn't even reach Rain's ears. What the both of us feel is the eye's presence concentrating at the tip of our fingers, followed by a gentle warmth, which very soon turns into an army of piercing needles. I wake up biting down to cry. My instincts tell me to throw the glove and the sigil away, but I cling to it. Wasting no time, I shroud myself in invisibility and escape the room. I don't even take a last look at Silvareth. He probably was still asleep, but the thought that he might have woken at the same time and that he was reaching for that gold coin of his compels me to get out of there as soon as possible. Sheesh, that was scary. Do you think he noticed us? No, he ought to think that we were part of the dream. If he even remembers it, that is. Rain nods, but he's still agitated. Both of us are. He probably doesn't understand why, but I know. Silvareth suspecting that we did some sort of magic to enter his dream wouldn't do us any favors, but I have enough foresight to understand that won't matter for much longer. Rain, Silvareth will most likely want to take a look into Manuel's affairs soon. So, let's pay his laboratory a visit. It's time that we leave him a gift. We'll make sure that he gets on his trail, no matter what. So, that was a little longer than I expected. But yeah, we got to see, I guess, Silvareth's backstory. We can see that he and Cadgan and Rian are kind of the same in that they are... well, this is my theory. That they are serving as avatars of their respective dark gods. And I say avatars because, Silvareth was the avatar of the gluttonous dark god, which is why he had an insatiable hunger that he couldn't get rid of. But I kind of feel that Cadgan/Rian are also the avatar of the sleeping dark god because they are able to use his magic to some extent. And I kind of feel that maybe Cadgan knows this. But yeah. It is kind of sad, though, that Silver couldn't understand what he, at first, why he felt so intensely about Tio. And that was more having to do with the fact that he probably had fallen for him. You know, he liked him, he loved him in his own little weird way. But that love would change Silvareth. So of course the demon, or the thing calling itself a demon for the dark god, knew that if it was allowed to continue and to blossom, that things would be thrown out of control for them. That the Avatar probably would not do what they wanted. Or it would not be able to fulfill Garrett's wish. So, of course, why not throw the one person that is throwing a wrench into the machine into the mouth of the, of your avatar, and, yeah. He technically did fulfill Silvereth's wish by having now Teal reside inside of him. And it's probably like, he's inside of him as like he's collecting his soul. But like at the same time, I wonder if that's what the gluttonous dark god actually wants. He wants Silvereth to just consume people to I guess accumulate their souls. And perhaps Silvereth already recognized this and said, you know what? No. The only soul that is going to reside inside of me, alongside my own, if I still have mine, is Teal's, because, he's the one that I wanted. Yeah. I wonder if he dies, if Teal would be released. And I wonder if Teal is conscious inside of him, or if it's just sort of like his presence is within him, but it's sort of inert. I also wonder if the whole purpose of having Silvereth here in Ranai is more or less to sort of exert the gluttonous dark god's own influence over Ranai, over the sleeping dark god's influence. Like to sort of usurp the throne in a way. Or if it is just Silvareth being like, you know what, I have to stop this, so I'm gonna have to figure out a way to stop, or I'm gonna have to figure out who the demon is so that I can kill them so that the village is safe? Or is he going to essentially torch the entire place as soon as he finds the demon? And I'm also, obviously he is suspecting that Cadgan / Rian is the demon, but like I said, I don't believe that they are the demon. I believe that even though Rian calls himself the Devil of Ranai, I believe that he is, along with Cadgan, just the avatar. He is an avatar for the Dark God of Ranai, and either there is no demon in Ranai, like an actual demon, or it is still hidden. It would be interesting if, eventually that ends up being true. I mean, I did call the whole there being a mouth in, Silvareth's belly, so yeah. Anyways, so what are your thoughts? Comment down in the comment section, and depending on how I feel, this is either going to be 2 videos or just one really long video, but like it's already 2 hours and 4 minutes and counting, so probably 2 videos. Anyways, but yeah, so, comment, and thank you all for watching / listening. If you'd like to play Devil's Gambit yourself or stay up to date with it, I will be posting a link down for the itch.io page where you can download the game and play it yourself. You can also support them through Patreon, of course, and you get early access to builds of Devil's Gambit and whatever else they offer there. They do have a Discord in case you want to join it, so yeah, Also, in case you want to become a channel member, that link will be down in the description as well. It does help support the channel and does help support me and whatnot. So yeah, support the channel, considering if you want to. I know that it is not available in all countries, but yeah, so, Also, Ko-fi, in case you want to support me through there. That is still an option. What else? Throne, buy book for me. Not necessary, Hard times coming for all of us. But yeah, so I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.